Tonight we're working on our down pillars, our front laterals, I believe they half laterals, what they call them. For this, we're using tape measure, some pre-bent tubing. Just gives me an idea of where my bend will start. This is roughly a 53 degree bend, maybe a little more like a 55, 56 degree bend. You know, whatever bender you got, I would recommend making a few test mock-up pieces like this. It gives you a good idea where the bend will start. And this is probably the most handy angle for building a roll cage, just because a lot of the larger angles will be about 55 to 58, maybe 63-ish is what I found. So I use this quite a bit. Basically what I'm going to do is measure from the top of the main hoop along the side to try to get an idea of how long a piece I need to start with, and then I'll try to cut this piece in half, meaning I'll start in the middle, figure out what this bend will be, figure out what this bend will be here, based on the center line that I create. It's not going to be the exact center of the tubing, but it'll be pretty close, and it's the same method I used on the main hoop. Basically going to cut the piece in half and bend each side based on that center line. So let's get to it. What, bud? I don't think we're gonna have a fire tonight, but I did talk to Miss Rose, and she's gonna let us come get firewood soon. Okay?
Can you get some today?
Not today. Don't push on that, dude. Come on, man.
I wouldn't say a fire.
All right, so I've marked my approximate center line right here on this tube to run along here. Then I put my tubing piece, my mock piece, starting here to see where the bend would start and see how the angle would meet my base plate. So I'm going to start my bend almost 2 inches past the center line point. So I'll start the bend here, right here, and it will bend, should bend perfectly down to our base plate. Then I'll take the center line point. I took the mock-up piece here at the next bend, and I want to see where the next bend should start. So I've configured that to be right here. This bend will start here, curve, and then back at our main hoop. So then what I'll do is I'll measure the distance between the two bends. The bend starts, which is here and here, and I got 14 inches. Then I'll measure the distance from the center line to those starts. So this one was like 1 3/4 inches. This one was like 11 inches and whatever the difference was. Then I go to my piece of paper, my sketch, and I can determine where the center line is, where to start the bends off the center line, and then just make sure I have enough excess on both sides to make sure that when I notch it on both sides, it will be flush at the base plate and the top of the main hoop. I hope that makes sense. It does to me, at least. There's probably better ways to do this. Obviously, if you have Bentech software or some other type of tubing software, it's probably pretty straightforward. I'm trying to do it maybe the old-fashioned way, harder way, but I'm learning more, saving money. That's one of the main things. So hopefully that made sense. If you know better ways to do it or think I'm an idiot, comment, let me know what you think. But I think this makes sense, so I'm going to go with it. We're at the point of bending our first half lateral. I've marked out where the bends need to be, where I think they need to be, and I've done the calculation several times now. It's kind of the point where I just need to bend some tubing. Hopefully it turns out, the way I want it to. If it doesn't, we'll just have to bend another tube, but hopefully we don't have to. So let's get to it. So we've done our first bend on the first half lateral. I went a little bit shy on the angle just in case, because you don't want to overbend it. You can't unbend a bend. So I went a couple degrees less than what I think it should be, just to be safe in case I need to, bend it again on the first bend. So we have it here. Now the second bend, you have to turn the tubing as well as complete basically the 90-degree angle of the roll cage up to the main hoop. So I've measured what I believe to be a safe measurement, well, safe but accurate, 18 degrees of rotation from 0, which was our beginning point. So we've rotated the tube 18 degrees, as well as lined it up at our next point to start the next bend. This next bend, I'm going to go 31 degrees, which again, if I need to, I could bend it again just to bring it down level with what I believe to be, the top of the main hoop. So it's a lot of trial and error with this tubing bender, my first tubing bender, probably your tubing bender. Unless you're, professional at this, you're probably not even watching this video. So hopefully you are, though. That'd be cool. But yeah, so let's see how this goes. So I made a small error and cut too much off one end down by the floor on the driver's side. So I have to bend some more tubing. I am learning a lot. The bend that I had would have probably worked, but I'm actually going to add a third bend at the roof piece so that I can kind of just raise the height further into the roof. Right now it was kind of level with the window. I'm going to try to get a little more height, adding a third bend. I believe I know how it should work. As far as that second angle, basically going to divide it into two. So I'll drop down the amount of angle, and then whatever that difference is, I'll add that on the third angle so that it should get me back to the same total angle between both points. At least that's how it makes sense in my head. I don't have the driver's side attempt on video just because it's the same as the bending you saw before. I did add 4 more degrees of rotation on the second bend, which helped. So we are improving. Unfortunately, I went through some tubing. I will be able to use some of the pieces from those 2 attempts on other sections of the cage, which is good. But I definitely, you know, where the sections are bent, those are pretty much a waste. But maybe I can use them for mock-up pieces for, you know, different angles down the road. So we're learning. That's good. And I'm trying to get this as perfect as possible. So let's keep digging. We're cutting a little bit off of each end of our driver's side half lateral. I've also started putting the notch for the tubing where it meets the main hoop. You can see that here. I don't have a tube notcher. I'm just basically going 1/3 of the distance of the tubing, which is a 1/2 inch on this 1.5 inch tubing. So I measure from the flat edge 1/2 inch back in the middle of the tubing, and then draw a line to the ends of the face of this tubing. Basically cut it with our die grinder, and then, or cut off wheel, and then we just go around it with the grinder to make it flush and weldable. I did this here, but I've realized I need to cut some more tubing away to get this to fit perfectly down on our front base plate. So I've made some measurements. I'm going to cut again. You always want to, you know, cut less than you think you need to. It's always better to be safe than sorry, because if you cut too much, then you got to start over. Unfortunately, on the last one, I did cut too much off the bottom down at the floorboard, and I had to remeasure, rebend this piece here. But I was able to add the 3rd bend in this tubing, which gave me a little more headroom on the roof. It's better. So every time I make one, you know, I maybe lose a little bit of material where I bent the tubing, but you can still use the straight sections. And I've learned, you know, more experience how to improve the cage. So I'm happy with the bends the way they are turning out now. I just need to cut this piece, and hopefully, you know, we'll be done with this side and can tack it in place. All right, so I finally got this first half lateral tacked in place. You can see it hugs the roof line pretty good. 3rd bend, 2nd bend, comes down to the 1st bend. Pretty happy with it so far. It hugs pretty nicely against that roof line and the A-pillar. It is on the front, towards the front of this lower base plate, but that's okay. I think it, I mean, it's still on top of the base plate good. I can weld all around it. It'll be good. Here's an inside the driver's side. Tell there's a little bit of space here, maybe 1 inch, but it runs nicely along, straight down to the base plate there, inside the roof, which is exactly what we wanted. So I'm pretty happy with it. Here's from inside the driver. Just runs right along the inside there. I think it'll be good.